Jackie. I'm a mom and a preschool teacher, and I make videos that help parents and other child caregivers navigate difficult situations with their kid. And my channel focuses on how to teach your child emotional regulation, emotional literacy, and self-control so that you don't have to keep controlling them to make them behave. They learn how to do it by themselves. This video is all about how to get your toddler to stay in their bed. Getting your child to stay in bed can be challenging, but it is possible to get them to stay in bed without the nightly struggle. If you've already done a lot of research and you're still struggling getting your kid to stay in bed, there is a reason. Most of the research and articles that you're going to find online focus about controlling your toddler's behavior instead of teaching them how to control themselves. So what I mean by controlling their behavior is by using punishments and rewards to control behavior. Punishments could include closing the door on them when they get out of bed, taking away plushies or blankets, the silent treatment, or letting them cry it out. Other punishments include timeout, taking away privileges, yelling, or in an extreme situation, even spanking. And rewards include reward charts, stickers, other incentives, and bribes. And another method of controlling a child's behavior is through emotional manipulation and guilt. And in the future, I'm going to be making a video about this. So if this is the type of content that you're interested, please consider subscribing to this channel and hitting the bell notification icon so that you'll get notified every time I post a new video. So using punishments and rewards might work in the moment and might get the results that you're looking for in that moment. But over time, you might find yourself stuck in a trap where either your child is expecting to be rewarded for every little good thing that they do, or punishments have turned into a way of life and everybody is just miserable all the time. There's a better way to teach your child how to control themselves, and it just takes a shift in your mindset and a little bit of knowledge about how our brains work. Our emotions drive our behavior. Every emotion that we have tells us something and tells us that we need to do something to get a need met. If we feel lonely, it tells us that we need to connect with somebody. If we feel scared, it tells us that we need to get to safety. A child is also driven by their emotions. The only difference is that their emotions are intense, they are loud, they're confusing, and sometimes they get really all over the place, especially during growth spurts. Focusing on what is happening inside their brain and inside their body instead of focusing on their behavior will help you learn how to de-escalate situations instead of escalating into a punishment or trying to control using rewards. The easiest way to do this is by following my 4-step process to emotional regulation, and I have a link to that in the video description box below. In summary, the 4 steps are: identify the emotion your child's feeling, validate the reason why they're feeling what they're feeling, help them take a deep breath, and then problem solve. We all have 3 brain states: rational, emotional, and survival. Our rational brain comes from our prefrontal cortex, our emotional brain comes from our limbic system, and our survival brain comes from our brainstem. And when there's misbehavior, oftentimes it is coming from the brainstem or the emotional area of their brain. A child and an adult must be in their rational state in order to learn a new skill. So if you're finding that you are dealing with a misbehavior, like your child gets out of bed every night and all of the different tools that you're using aren't fixing the problem, and your child keeps doing the misbehavior regardless of the punishment or reward that you're implementing, it's because they're not learning what they need to do instead. They're not in their rational brain. They don't know how to learn so that they don't continue doing the misbehavior. So if you apply the color spectrum of emotions and the 4 steps to emotional regulation to any behavior, you're going to find that you are able to teach your child how to control themselves and how to regulate their emotions, and you don't have to keep doing it for them. There is no need for punishments or rewards ever again. I promise you, there is no need to ever punish or reward your child ever again if you follow my method. So back to the point of the video, which is how to get your toddler to stay in bed. It's really important to understand that there are so many reasons why a toddler would want to get out of bed. And most of the time, if they're getting out of bed, it is coming from their yellow or their red state. It's coming from emotional or survival. The most common reason that a toddler would get out of bed is because they're lonely or they're scared. Loneliness comes from the limbic system. It comes from the emotional yellow part of their brain. And that's telling them that they need to connect. They need to be close. They're feeling isolated and they need to connect. And sometimes a toddler would get out of bed to come find you so that they don't feel lonely anymore. If they stay in bed and that lonely feeling isn't getting resolved, it could escalate them into red. And this then shifts into fear. And fear is really difficult for a toddler to handle. Getting out of bed is your toddler's way of saying, I am having big feelings and I don't know how to process this and I need your help. There is nothing wrong with a toddler needing to ask for help. It is a problem if a toddler keeps getting out of bed because it's just not safe. You have to keep your toddler in bed, especially when you're sleeping at night, so they don't wander around the house. And sometimes it's dangerous for them to crawl out of their bed if the bed is up high, or just generally at the end of the night you need a break and you need them to stay in bed so you can rest and relax and recenter yourself so you're ready for the next day. So it is important that they stay in bed, and it's important that they understand what to do when they start feeling lonely so it doesn't escalate them into feeling fear. So let's apply the 4 steps that I talked about just a couple minutes ago into this example of how to get your toddler to stay in bed. The first step is to identify the emotion that your toddler is feeling. So in this example, let's say your toddler got out of bed and they came to find you. You give them a name for the emotion. You notice what they did and then name the emotion that drove their behavior. So you could say something like, you got out of bed and you came to find me. Were you feeling lonely or scared? So there, you just gave them a name for how they're feeling. They're going to be able to confirm what emotion they're feeling. Sometimes it takes a couple guesses, but once you guess the right emotion and give it a name, you'll notice they shift. They'll agree with you, they'll nod their head, they'll say yes. And once you give them the name, then move on to step 2, which is validating, and give them a reason why they're feeling what they're feeling. Every feeling that we have happens for a reason. And toddlers need to understand that they're not crazy, that their emotions are valid, and that their emotions help them understand how the world works. They just need some help and some guidance for how to turn this into a framework that's understandable. So validate why they started feeling lonely. So you could say something like, you really love me and you missed me and you didn't want to be alone, so you came to find me. It's really hard to be alone sometimes, and sometimes you might hear a noise at night and it scares you, so you needed to be close to me to find me. So you have just taken a situation where your child is feeling afraid, they came to find you, and you embrace your child. You let them know that it's okay for them to come and ask for help, and that you're going to teach them what they can do next time they start to feel lonely. They're definitely not in trouble. If a child is punished for getting out of bed like this, they learn that their feelings are not okay. And over time, they learn how to repress their feelings, so they start shutting down, or they get hypersensitive so that every little thing bothers them because they don't know how to take this feeling that they're having and make it work for them. So before we move on to the problem solving, you have to breathe, and they have to get oxygen to their brain to reset, to recenter during this step. Just if they want to be held, just hold them and give them a hug and just tell them, just take a deep breath. And once they've taken a couple deep breaths, you'll notice a shift. You'll notice that they're calmer. You'll notice that they're more receptive. The energy has shifted for you and for them. So after the energy shifts, they're back in their rational state. They're back in green. So you have just de-escalated them from that survival state, from that fear, into yellow, and then into green. Now they're ready to learn what to do next time they feel lonely instead of getting out of bed. There's so many different ways you can handle this, and the way you handle it is going to vary based on your family's needs, based on what your child needs, and based on the emotion that they're feeling. You would handle the situation differently if your child is lonely versus if your child is overtired or bored. So work with your child, help them come up with solutions for what you want them to do instead of getting out of bed when they start to get these feelings. So for a toddler, if you have a baby monitor, you could say, next time you want to get in bed and you need me, call my name and I will come to you. For an older child, you can ask them, what would help you stay in bed? Would you like a nightlight? Would you like a flashlight? You could have an extra blanket or an extra plushie. I could give you a photo album that you can look at night when you start to feel lonely. What would help you feel brave at night so that you can stay in your bed? Your child knows themselves better than anybody else. And if you just ask them what they would need to succeed, they will come up with the answer, and they will guide you so that you can be helpful. Children and babies and even newborns can learn how to self-soothe and how to emotionally regulate themselves as long as you're teaching them what their emotions are and how to handle them. And the most important part of this whole process is building unconditional love and unconditional trust. That is vital to a healthy relationship. And you'll notice that if you go to your child every time that they need help and you help them through every single time, that they're going to come to you less often because they are learning how to handle the little things all by themselves. Let your toddler know what the expectations are as you're sleep training. What should they do if they need you? How should they let you know if they get scared? If you want them to stay in your bed, then you must be willing to go to them every single time they need help. And there is a little bit of learning that goes with that, because you don't want to make your boundaries so rigid that you never ever go to them, but also not too fluid so that you go to them every time they make a noise. So part of that is a little bit of a learning curve. But if you prove to them that you will be there for them when they need you, over time they will ask for your help less often because they have learned how to handle their big emotions and they don't need you to keep doing it for them. I hope that this was helpful. I wish you peace, love, health, and joy.